Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making a decadently delicious devil food cake. So let's get started. First off, preheat your oven to 350 so it's nice and hot, and you will want to prep two 9-inch cake pans with some baking spray and parchment rounds. And now, in a large bowl, we're gonna combine our dry ingredients, and I'm gonna give them a sift, starting with 2 cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour. This cake is so soft, rich, and amazing. You do not want to ruin that by adding too much flour. To puff things up, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. There is coffee in this, wonderful acidic coffee that will react with our baking soda. 1 and 2. Half a teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. Our cake needs some contrast so you can really taste the chocolate. Sift that out. Sifting is never a bad idea, but if it annoys you, you can just give this a whisk. My scale's done for the moment. We're gonna set this aside as well as our dry ingredients and grab your stand mixer. Now, in the bowl of your stand mixer that you will fit with the paddle attachment, we're gonna add half a cup or 113 grams of soft room temperature butter. Unsalted, please. Pop your paddle attachment on, and we're gonna mix this up just to make sure it's nice and creamy. All right, my butter's creamed up, so it's time to grab a medium bowl and the cocoa powder. We're gonna make a slurry using the oil, and that'll combine with the butter. Whenever you have a layered cake, chances are, unless you're immediately feeding a party with it, it will be living in the refrigerator, which means it will harden up if it's all butter. People do not like hard cakes. It doesn't have the same mouthfeel. So to counteract this, we have half butter for delicious flavor and richness, and half oil. The oil will keep the cake nice and soft. In that medium bowl, I'm adding 1 cup or 100 grams of Dutch processed cocoa powder. Dutch processed will give you a fudgier, darker chocolate cake. Lovely. All right, sift that out. Oh my God, I'm such a mess. Little rock city inside of here. To this, we'll add half a cup or 120 mils of veggie oil. You could use any neutral oil you wish. Who made this mess? Not I. Oh dear. In you go. Give this a good whisk. And by the way, if you like my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. 2 new recipes every single week. Oh my God. This cocoa powder is very jumpy. Oh my gosh, look at the scale. I said it was a delicious cake, not a neat affair in the kitchen. Zero your scale out. To either of these bowls, we're gonna add 1.5 cups or 300 grams of granulated sugar. Perfect. For some added depth of flavor, acidity, and a bit more moisture, half a cup or 110 grams of light brown sugar. In the bowl. Now it's time to combine all of this with the butter. So plop this in. This cake is so rich, it's devilish. That's where the name comes from. Basically, light, airy, cloud-like angel food cake, rich, decadent, devil's food cake. It's the same reasoning why you have deviled eggs. They're just rich eggs, not austere. Things are in the bowl. We're gonna beat this on medium speed for about 5 minutes until it is very light and fluffy, and you'll see the difference in color. Not a bad idea to give this a scrape down every now and then. Just double checking that everything's getting mixed and nothing is lurking at the bottom uninvited. And yes, you could make this with a hand mixer, but that's a lot of standing around. I don't know if you're ready for it. While this is mixing, go ahead and crack 3 eggs into a bowl or cup. I just want to have them ready and make sure that no shells go into my cake. And 3. No shells. It's been about 5 minutes, so we're gonna add the eggs in one at a time, scraping down at least, I'd say twice. 1. And let that first egg incorporate before adding the next. Scrape-a, scrape-a. Beautiful cakes are made from well-mixed wet ingredients and hardly at all mixed dry ingredients when they combine. Okay. Back to medium, and the last egg goes in. Time for a tablespoon of vanilla. Don't forget to scrape that bowl down after all the eggs are in. This devil's food cake is made all the more delicious by coffee. The coffee will really thin the cake out. It will help the cocoa powder bloom, and it will add to the chocolate flavor. You're really not gonna taste coffee, even though we're using 1 cup of hot coffee. So with whatever brewing method you have, make a cup. And if you're anti-coffee, go ahead and use 1 cup of hot water as a substitute. We're gonna combine the dry, alternating with the wet, into this chocolate mixture. However, even though I sifted this out, wouldn't it be nice if I whisked it together? I forgot about that. Silly me. We're gonna add about 1/3 of the flour mixture in right now. Measured out, I have 1 cup of whole milk and 1/2 cup of sour cream. That's 120 grams of sour cream if you're weighing it out. Mixing on lowest setting, start stirring in your flour. And once it's mostly mixed in, we're gonna add 1/2 of the milk, that's 1/2 cup, and 1/2 of the sour cream, that's 1/4 cup. Sour cream is a magical ingredient. It gives you a lovely tang, as well as pumping in a ton of moisture into the cake. Okay. Mix this on low, add another 1/3 of the flour, then the rest of the milk, and the remaining sour cream. I'm just doing this in stages so it mixes nicely. It does not have to be exact. And this is looking a little messy in here, so I'm actually going to scrape the bowl down before I finish mixing. That's looking better. I mixed this by hand, so don't have to use the mixer, but it's time to add the rest of the flour. And I'm gonna mix this now until it is almost combined. Just like that. I always like to finish things off by hand, just so I can do a final scrape down of the bowl. And whenever you mix things by hand, you have so much more control. That goes from everything from whipping cream to making a cake. Scrape all that flour away, fold everything together, and you should have a fairly conventional looking cake batter. But what's that missing ingredient? It's a cup of hot coffee. This will change everything. My coffee is brewed and hot. I'm gonna measure out 1 cup or 120 mils. I'm gonna pour this into my batter while mixing. Oh. So be careful because you have a thick mixture and a very thin watery one, and you're gonna combine these carefully until it's nice and smooth. And with just a little bit of mixing, I have a very thin batter. This falls into the, oh my gosh, this seems way too watery. Did I do something wrong category? You did everything right if you've been following the steps, and with some baking magic, it'll come out spongy, fudgy, and incredibly soft. Distribute the batter evenly into your 2 9-inch pans. This is where a scale comes in handy. You can get an exact measurement. If you don't have a scale, what you can do is kind of eyeball it, give it a weight test, and use a skewer, almost like you're doing an oil check. Do people know what oil checks are now? Anyways, see how deep that batter goes. My devil's food cake layers are ready to go into the oven 350 for 40 to 45 minutes, or until the center springs back gently when touched and the edge pulls away from the pan. In you go. Your baked and cooled cake layers can be wrapped really well and frozen for up to 3 months. Then you can make your frosting as desired and enjoy an almost instant cake. Your assembled cake will last up to 5 days at room temperature. Just make sure it's nicely covered in a cake cloche. That is not the case, however, if you use a cream cheese frosting, then it should be refrigerated. Once your cake layers are cool, it's time to make a frosting, and you have a choice here. Today, I'm making a batch of lovely chocolate buttercream. It's silky, perfectly sweet, and full of chocolate flavor. But you could make a chocolate cream cheese frosting. You could make like a Swiss buttercream flavored with espresso. Like, the list goes on. So find something you like and whip it up. Either way, this cake is so fudgy, it'll be delicious. Into the bowl of my stand mixer, I'm adding 1.5 cups or 339 grams of room temperature butter, unsalted please. That's nice and soft. It's gonna whip up beautifully. 1, 2, and 3 sticks. It's time to give this a mix. 5 minutes or so on medium. We want this very light and fluffy, and you will see how the color changes. It'll look like a beautiful butter cloud. So set it, forget it, and go do some dishes. It's been a few minutes and I just want to show you the inside looks perfect. It is so much lighter in color, it almost looks like Swiss meringue buttercream. But the outside is a bit yellow and dingy. You can see the difference in color here, so it's definitely time to scrape the bowl down. All right, scraping that down. You know, a lot of times people say that American buttercream is like too sweet and almost grainy because it has all that sugar in it. However, if you make it properly, it can be truly delicious. One of the most important things is adding a lot of time for beating the butter. Unlike in a Swiss or Italian meringue buttercream, we don't have a mountain of meringue to fold into the butter, so the butter itself has to be whipped up. It's also important to add sugar to taste. So you call for a certain number of cups, and then like 75% of the way in, you can begin tasting the frosting to see like, oh, is this just right? And I don't mind that it's a little bit soft because there's less sugar in it. Or do I want to keep going because I have a sweet tooth? All right, 1 more minute of mixing. This looks lovely. Now it's time to add some flavor in the form of cocoa powder and salt. Optional-ish, but you should always sift your cocoa powder. In a pinch, you can just dump it in, but it's guaranteed to have little rocks in there that will not mix properly, and that is not gonna look or taste great. Such a pretty color, look at that, oh my gosh. Zero your scale out. We're gonna add 50 grams or half a cup of cocoa powder. I'm using a Dutch process. It'll give me a darker buttercream. If you use natural, it'll be fine too. It will just be a light brown color. Sift that out. I'm also adding in that 3/4 teaspoon of salt. If you don't add salt to sweet things, they will taste very dull. I will say that if you are extremely salt sensitive, which some people are, Maybe start with a 1/4 teaspoon and then add the rest in to taste towards the end. It's much better to add it in now though, so kind of know who you are and add the correct amount. For a little extra flavor, I'm adding 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Pop that back on, and we're gonna mix this on low speed until it's well combined. Oh, no. I was so careful. You will see the need to scrape the bowl down, as the outside will probably be almost completely white and the inside will be chocolatey. Just so you know, I really try hard to be neater than I would be in everyday life on these videos. So, not hamming it up for you. You can increase speed to medium-low for like 30 seconds. Just kind of shake the butter off of the whisk and give it a head start. And as you can see, almost completely white, but on the inside, fairly chocolatey. I'm gonna scrape the bowl down. Back to mixing. This is all mixed in lovely, so now we're gonna add the sugar and the cream in. I have 6 cups of powdered sugar here, that's 720 grams. I'm gonna add it in a cup at a time, alternating with a tablespoon of heavy cream. I have 6 cups because that's how I like it, but you can use up to 8 cups of powdered sugar. Mix on low, add that tablespoon of cream in. Once it's mostly mixed in, add the next cup. And more cream. You'll continue this until all of your sugar is gone and you've used enough cream for it to have the right consistency. I'll show you what that looks like. And don't forget to get your tasting spoon out because this needs to taste perfect just for you. It looks so pretty. Last bit of sugar. Perhaps my last tablespoon of cream. The sugar's all mixed in, so it's time to increase to medium-low and beat this for about a minute until it's fluffy, spreadable, and perfect. It is a good idea to scrape this down and give it a taste though. That is so good. However, one thing I'm noticing is this is a little thicker than I would like. I don't have an intense decoration scheme for this cake. It's just gonna be swoopy and old-fashioned. In that case, your frosting can be more slack, and I think it makes it have a nicer mouthfeel. So, mixing on medium-low, and gonna add in an extra tablespoon and a half of cream, and let that go. In the meantime, grab your favorite cake plate and offset spatula, and be ready to finish this up. Grab my favorite cake plate. My cake layers are completely cool, and if they feel maybe stuck-ish, just go ahead and give them a tap like this. That'll dislodge them. Invert. Remove your paper. Center it up. And here you have a choice. In my mind, a classic devil's food cake, 2 layers. If you'd like, you could slice these down the middle and create 4 layers, and then frost each in between. Grab about 3/4 of a cup of your beautiful chocolate frosting and place that in the center. If you let your frosting sit for a few minutes, it's a good idea to give it a 30-second whip at medium speed. It'll wake it back up and make it so silky. Any frosting tends to get kind of bubbly and lose its nice texture if you let it sit for a while. Smooth that out into a flat layer. This cake is very, very delicate and tender. That makes it amazingly delicious, but it's also a bit fragile at this state, so don't try dragging frosting across. Try and get good coverage instead. Next layer, paper off, and place that on and center it up. The bottom of the cake layer will be flatter than the top, so you should invert that out so the top is nice and flat. If you forget, it's not a big deal. It just makes decorating it a bit easier. Transfer the rest of the frosting onto your cake. You have a mountain of frosting on your cake. Begin smoothing it out towards the edge. And then you can work that excess down the side. Just like that. So once you have some excess, move that down the side. At first, you just want to get good coverage and then you can swoop away. Don't worry about how it looks yet. My cake is completely covered in frosting, so now we can use our offset and get to swooping. Swoops are nice because they create the illusion of an abundance of frosting, even though there's a standard amount on there. I mean, I wasn't stingy at all, but the swoops give you so much depth and movement, it makes it look like it's a sea of bubbling frosting on top of your cake. There, that looks so nice. I'm very pleased. I used up all my frosting. The cake is ready to go, and all that's left is to give it a cut. And just like that, it's ready to enjoy. That cake is impossibly soft, fudgy, melt in your mouth, and nothing but pure chocolate flavor. And it only gets better with that silky chocolate buttercream. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious recipe, and if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my chocolate playlist.